Hello, welcome back to Math 7 with Mr. Passon. Today we are continuing our equations unit. Today's lesson is on solving equations in real life. The first part is identifying an appropriate equation given the situation that you have. So a large part of today is going to be reading the problem and trying to break it down into the things that we know, the things we don't know, and the relationship between them. So we're looking for everything that helps us set up our equation. Alright, so let's go ahead and actually I'm going to change my view just a little bit so it's a little easier to read these. Alright, the width of a rectangle is 2 centimeters less than 8 times the length. The perimeter is 68 centimeters. What are the width and length of the rectangle? So the last question is normally where what I need to know. And I need to know the width and length. The things that I know is the perimeter is 68. And I want to go ahead and draw a perimeter that relates the length and the width. Now in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw another little text box here. Alright. And I can think of, well, I'm going to call this side L and this side L. But on the top and bottom, I've got, oh, maybe I should give a border around that to make it easier to see. Border, 2 pixels. So on the top, the width is 8 times the length minus 2, and on the bottom it is 8 times the length minus 2. And we get that from reading this. The width is 2 centimeters less, so minus 2, and it would be really helpful if I made that a capital L, then 8 times the length. So we have 8 times the length that we're subtracting 2. And then we've got our L's in here. So let's add up everything in here. In this case, the variable is my L, which is my length. So it's L, which equals the length of the rectangle. Okay, now let's figure out our equation. Well, we've got 8L plus L plus 8L plus L. So we've got 18L. And then we're subtracting 4, because we have our minus 2 and our minus 2. So when we add everything up here, we get 18L minus 4, and that has to equal 68. Once we solve that equation, so remember we got our perimeter by adding up all 4 sides, and then we combined like terms. Now you might have written it as 8L minus 2 plus L plus 8L minus 2 plus L, and then grouped all the terms together, which is still how we get our 18L minus 4, and that's got to equal our total perimeter, which is 68. When we solve that, so now we're going to worry about solving this equation right here. We're going to add 4 to both sides. And we're going to get 18 times L equals 72. Now, how do we get rid of a multiply by 18? We divide both sides by 18. Okay. And then we get L equals 4. And in this case, that 4 stands for 4 centimeters. Alright. Once we know L, so we know the length, we can go back and say, oh, well, we need 8 times 4 minus 2. So the width is 8 times 4 minus 2, which is 30 centimeters. Alright? So we were able to first calculate our length and then calculate our width. The hardest part for this one was setting up our equation and figuring out our relationship for the perimeter. Okay, so again, we're going to read the problem. We're going to try to figure out how to set it up. Stephanie is registering her son for swim lessons. There is a one-time $45 registration fee plus $20 per lesson. If Stephanie paid $225, for how many lessons did she register? Alright, so we want to know how many lessons. Did she register for? Alright, we know $20 per lesson. That's a ratio or a rate. To get the cost, we're going to, anytime we have a per, well, that's a ratio. We're probably going to have to multiply that by the number of lessons. And then we had a $45 registration fee. So let's think about our equation. Well, the thing that we need to know is the number of lessons. So let's let n equal the number of lessons. And let's find the total cost. So remember, the cost had to equal the registration plus the lessons themselves, right? And that cost came down to, so it was $225 equals 45 for the registration plus 20 times, oh, that's not a plus, plus 20 times the number of lessons. There's our equation. Now let's solve that equation. Again, we had money plus $20 per lesson times the number of lessons. That's also money. Note that we can only add things with the same units. So let's go ahead and subtract 45 from both sides. And we get 180 equals 20 times n. We divide both sides by 20, and we get that n equals 9, or 9 equals n. Alright, so she paid for 9 lessons. Alright. Now, what we have here on the next one is we've got a bunch of problems, and I want you to try to set them up. You have to try to set up 5 of them and then solve 3 of those 5. Okay? Normally I'd have you work with the partners on this, and you'd get to like switch answers, and if you got it right, you'd get the square. But we can't do that today because, you know, we don't have time. So, go ahead and pause the video. Try working out several of the problems. And again, I'm going to go through all of them, but you have to answer 5 of them, and then, or sorry, set up 5 of them and answer 3 of the 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this one. A plumber charges $55 for a service call plus $35 per hour. If the plumber's bill was $160, how many hours? So the total had to equal the service call plus the time, or not, well, plus well, let me say that again. And I know even teachers can like figure out, it's a little confusing how to say it. So our total had to equal the cost for just making the service call in the first place. So that's the show up fee plus the cost for time. And that cost for time is $35 per hour. So we have 160, and that equals our show up fee plus $35 times the number of hours. Okay, where x is the number of hours. Let's go ahead and solve that one. We get, let's subtract 55 from both sides. And we get 105 equals 35 times x. Well, x then equals 3 hours. Next one, the length of a rectangle is twice the width. If the perimeter of the rectangle is 60 units, so let's figure out that. Well, so we've got 2 lengths plus 2 widths, and that has to equal 60. But the length is twice the width, so let's go ahead and figure that out. We get 2 of 2 w's plus another 2 w's. So let's go ahead and, hey, that looks like that is 6 times w equals 60. The width equals 10. The length equals twice the width, which is 20. So the area, which equals length times width, equals 200 square units. The Nile River is 6,690 kilometers long. This is 1,160 longer than the Yangtze. How long is the Yangtze? So we could say the length equals the Nile's length, 6,690, minus 1,160. So that means our length equals 5,530. Note that this one was already solved for us. All we had to do, kilometers is lowercase m. All we had to do was simplify. So we figured out that it was a subtraction and we simplify. Alright. A waiter earns $128 for 6 hours of work. His total income included $86 in tips. How much does the waiter earn each hour? So we know the total equals wages plus tips, right? So the total was 128, and that equaled 6 hours times the rate, R, plus the tips, which was 86. So let's go back and figure out, again, this was his total. This was the money that he earned just for being there and doing his job. And then these are the extra money that tips gave him. So let's go back and figure out what the rate is. So how do we get rid of a plus 86? We subtract 86 from both sides. And then we get that 42 has to equal 6 times R. Well, we know what number times 6 is 42, but we're just going to divide both sides by 6. And we get that the waiter earns $7 per hour. 3 sisters each purchase 2 dresses and a purse. The purse costs $26. If the grand total is $205.50, how much did each dress cost? We had 3 sisters all buying the same thing. That's 2 dresses, so 2 times the cost of the dress, plus the cost of a purse, and that total was $205.50. Let's go ahead and distribute first. So we get 6x plus 78 plus 78. Note that it was 3 times 2c plus 3 times 26. That equals 205.50. We're going to subtract 78 from both sides. why that happened, I think. So that's going to give us 6x, or 6 times x, or why did I switch from x to c? C stands for cost, which makes more sense to me. So 6 times c has to equal whatever 205.50 minus 78 is. So it's going to be .50, and then 7, so we had to regroup, and that's 19, 18, 18 minus 7 should be 11. Let's see if that all lines up right. 5s, maybe 12. 127.50. Now let's go ahead and divide that by 6. So we divide both sides by 6, and we get the cost of the dress is, or cost of each dress is $21.25. Alright. So, let's go ahead and read the next one. Emma's sister is 9 years older than Emma. Their combined ages add up to 49. So we've got Emma's age plus Emma's sister's age, and that has to equal 49. And the question is, how old is Emma? So we've got 2 times E plus 9 equals 49. Here I just combine like terms, right? We go ahead and subtract 9 from both sides, and we get 2 times E equals 40, or E equals 20. So Emma is 20, and Emma's sister is 29. I'm just going to set up these last 3 and then give you the answers. Alright? So in 1 year, Michael read 18 books. This was 4 fewer than twice the number of books that Jeff read. How many books did Jeff read? So Jeff read twice the number that Michael read. Minus 4. Oh, sorry. So Michael read 18, and 18 equals 2 times the number that Jeff read minus 4. So we get 18 equals 2J minus 4, where J is the number that Jeff read. You go ahead and solve that equation. You get J equals 11. Jeff read 11 books. Let's set up the situation. Samuel is saving to buy a watch that costs $169. This is 48 more than 4 times what he saved last month. How much did he save last month? So 169 is 48 more than, so 4 times what he saved last month. So 4 times what he saved last month plus 48 is going to equal 169. So 4 times what he saved last month plus $48 is the 169. When we solve that for S, how much he saved, that is going to be $30.25. Mr. Martinez rents a car for 1 day. The charge is $36 plus 18 cents per mile. Mr. Martinez has a budget of $60. How many miles can he drive? So his total has to be less than 60. So let's just figure out if he went all the way up to 60. It's going to be $36 plus 0.18 times the number of miles. And I'm going to use D for distance. We're going to go ahead and solve that, and we get that the distance D equals 133 1/3 miles. Alright, so he needs to stay under this amount to stay under his budget of 60. Note D here stands for distance. So, a lot of these are, the hardest part is reading the sentence and figuring out the equation. We do need lots of practice with that. We're going to try to figure out, anytime we have a rate, it's almost always going to be multiplied. There are going to be a few cases where we do other stuff. But if you have a sense of how the model works, you will be able to generate your equations, and then solving them will often be the easy part. Alright, let's stop there.